okay, an urban area, so much, okay, of landscape, okay, has been developed, okay, has been developed that fresh water, okay, that fresh water can no longer penetrate the ground, okay, to recharge, okay, aquifers as needed. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about, of course, the what you call uh, the need for the fresh water become, of course, more critical and critical as a result of increasing human population and so on. So something like this to mention this point here, that the human population, okay, more, as you know, more than tripled, okay, in last century. And just to mention, for example, that global water use, has increased sixfold. Okay, and also, and to mention also, and per capita withdrawal, okay, have basically quadrupled. Have quadru sorry, quadrupled. Okay, and that's basically, there is a lot of expectation that in the future, especially between countries who are sharing water, it could maybe, as a matter of fact, it could result into kind of conflicts here. Okay, now, to mention this point here, some water experts, okay, some water experts predict uh, that people likely uh, to remove, okay, okay, to remove up to 90%, okay, of what is known as, we call, reliable runoff by 2025 or beyond. Okay. And also to mention, factors behind this prediction include, sorry, factors behind this prediction, okay, include, for example, these factor: population growth, of course, we mean in this one human population growth, okay, and also what you call rising rates of water use per person, okay, and also because of the climate, going to have longer period or dry period, longer, okay, dry period in some areas, okay, and also unfortunately, basically, we call failure to reduce unnecessarily water losses, okay, and to mention this one here also, okay, that failure to reduce unnecessary unnecessary, this is unnecessary, unnecessary water losses. All these factor is going to, okay, water losses. Now to mention other point here with regard, basically to mention that worldwide people, the worldwide people, or worldwide, okay, people, they use about 70% of the fresh water, okay, taken, as I mentioned to you, each year, okay, from rivers, okay, lakes, and aquifers. Okay, just a second. And aquifers, as a matter of fact, to irrigate, okay, as I mentioned, cropland, and raise livestock, and raise livestocks, okay. Now, also to mention, of course, basically in arid regions, to have this in arid or dry regions, in arid regions, okay, about 90% of all water, okay, is used for food production. Okay. Usually, according to statistics, basically, industry use about roughly 20% to mention this point here. Industry, okay, uses roughly, okay, 20% of the water withdrawn globally, okay, of the water, which is called withdrawn globally each year. Put it down here. Okay. And also sometimes a person called, okay, do you see this one here? That sometimes also we use what you call uh, indirect type of water to mention to you here. Now, I mean, a person, I'm going to mention you as people, okay? Just to mention that uh, you, for example, use most water uh, did you follow this here, please? Okay. Use most water indirectly. If you finish from this one, I'm going to move it. Okay. So as I mentioned, to use most water indirectly. Okay. And this water we call virtual water, the water which people use indirectly. I'm going to explain that. Okay. This water. Okay. To mention that, and this water, okay, is called virtual water. It's known as virtual water. And simply, of course, what happened here, that this water is basically the water being used as a matter of fact for food. Okay, to mention this point here. So basically, to define it, virtual water, okay, which is this is fresh water, as fresh water that is used, okay, basically to produce food, okay, and other products. Okay, and other products. So to mention in this case, basically indirect water reuse. Okay, make basically makes up a large part of a person's, okay, of a person's, which is known as water footprint. known as water footprint, especially in more developed countries. In more countries, okay? So simply to mention that, for example, your water footprint, okay? So your water footprint is a rough measure, we call it, of of the volume, okay, of fresh water, okay, of fresh water you use directly and indirectly, of fresh water, sorry, you use, okay, directly and indirectly, okay, to support simply your lifestyle. Okay. Now, to give you an example for basic automation, for example, that agricultures or agriculture in general, okay, account or accounts for about 92% of humanity, okay, of humanity's water footprint. Okay. The example I'm going to give you here, for example, if just somebody goes out, for example, and eat a hamburger to see how much really water has been used in this hamburger. Okay, simple as that. Okay, so basically, according to this calculation, is almost more than 2,400 liter of water. Of course, that include when you had it from the animal feeding, all that, until it became to this patient too. For example, okay. This is, for example, here to mention, for example, okay, producing and delivery a typical, for example, producing, okay, and delivering, okay, a typical, okay, a typical quarter pound hamburger, okay, a hamburger takes about, okay, 2,400 liter of fresh water or liters of fresh water, okay, basically, as you know, this is, if you take this one, basically that which is enough to fill, okay, more than 16 bathtubs, okay? And of course, uh, most of that, basically the water has been used, as a matter of fact, basically to grow the grain or the crops that feed the cow, to mention this point, or the cattle, whatever it is, okay? Enough to fill more than 16 bathtubs, okay? And to mention, of course, here that most of that water, okay, is used basically to grow, okay, grain, to feed simply cattle, okay? So basically, just to give an idea, now we talk about basically that, of course, everybody is expecting that basically that the freshwater shortage is going to grow and grow in the future. And to mention subtitle here, freshwater shortages, okay, will grow. Okay, now to mention this regard, basically at the moment we have more than 30 countries, more than 30 countries now face, okay, stress from fresh water, okay, scarcity means scare, okay, and we expect basically by 2050 will be almost close to 60 countries, okay, and by 2050 as many as 60 countries, most of them, okay, in Asia are likely to suffer from fresh water, we call this as scarcity stress, okay? And of course, it's very well expected all that later on it may result even in a conflict, okay? That for sure, which is already, because, you know. Now, to mention also the other point here, basically about this, currently about 30%, currently, okay, about 30% of Earth's land, okay, which is basically that area is equal roughly, this Israel is equal roughly about 5 times the size of the United States of Earth, which is equal to about roughly 5 times, okay, 5 times the size of USA, which is equal to, we basically are experiencing or experience severe drought. About 30% of Earth land, as a matter of fact, experience, okay, severe drought. Severe drought, and basically by 2000, close to 2060, by 2059, the expectation is as much as going to be about 45% of Earth's, okay, land could see extreme drought. Okay, from a combination of natural drought cycle, uh, okay, drought cycles, and also projected with that also what you call climate change, and the projected climate, this is C here, okay, climate change, okay. So basically what happened here, that is very natural, is that after that is going to result in kind of, hopefully what expect to be conflict, okay, to mention this point here. Okay. Okay, I'm just take this out here. Save paper as much as we can here, okay. Okay. All right, it just went. Okay. So basically, as you mentioned, as a consequence, okay, result here, conflicts, okay, are likely, of course, to happen okay, more frequently. More frequently over shared freshwater resources. Okay, so as I mentioned, as a consequence, of course, conflicts are likely to happen more frequently over shared water, freshwater resources. If you finish from this one, I'm going to put it down here. Okay, resources. Okay, and basically, as a result, also simply, of course, as population grow, of course, as the demand okay, for water also increases. Put it down here. Increases. basically simply as, of course, as freshwater supply shrinks and as, okay, fresh water supply shrinks. Okay. So basically, just to make you some statistic, basically, it's not very far. It's about 6 years ago. To mention this point here, in about 2014, imagine 2014, which is almost like 7 years from now away. Okay, in 2014, the United Nations, okay, nations, which is basically the and WHO. Of course, as you know, WHO is abbreviation for World Health Organization, called WHO, World Health Organization, reported, okay, about that about 783 million people did not have, okay, regular access, okay, to clear water, okay, for drinking, okay, or cooking and washing. And seem there, as a matter of fact, that most of the reason of that is poverty, okay? And as a matter of fact, this also shows us, although I don't mention it here, that of course in the future, of course, the use of water is going to be even more expensive, I guess. So to mention here, mostly because of poverty, of poverty. And basically, of course, as a matter of fact, that the shortage of water and so on is going to be in reality one of the severe, what you call, environmental health that basically humanity is going to face. To mention this point here, that basically many analysts, okay, view basically the likelihood, okay, of expanding water shortages, okay, in many parts of the world. Okay, in many parts of the world, okay, as we basically is going to be basically this is one of the most, to mention this point, as one of the most, okay, serious environmental health, Okay, environmental health, basically, and also the same time, and also an economic problem and economic problems and economic problems, okay, that society faces. Okay, now, this basically gives us an idea, as I mentioned to you, with regard to what do you call the expectation of the water shortage and expect. Now, I'm going to talk about basically the dam and what's the impact. Of course, the dam at the same time, usually building a dam, they may have benefit, but also at the same time, they create a problem and also other factors. So to mention subtitle here, okay, dam or dams, okay, provide benefits, but also and create, okay, problems. Okay. Now, of course, in the beginning, going to mention, of course, the purpose of building a dam, basically to hold the water and later on to use it in many ways. Now, to mention this point here, for example, the purpose of a dam, okay, the purpose of a dam, of course, and reservoir systems, okay, to capture, okay, to capture and store, okay, okay, and basically to capture, okay, and store, okay, and store the surface runoff, called the surface runoff, okay, from rivers watershed, from uh, rivers watershed, okay. And of course, when you have we call the system as the dam, and this system, as a matter of fact, okay, later on, of course, releases water, okay, as needed, simply to control floods, okay, and also to generate electricity, control floods, generate electricity, and also and supply fresh water, okay, and supply fresh water for irrigation. I'm going to continue here for irrigation, okay, and of course, and for use in towns and cities, and for use in towns and cities. Okay, wait just a second here. Okay, and also in addition to that, of course, it may, as a matter of fact, will provide also what they call recreational value. To mention that reservoirs also, continue here. Okay, reservoirs also provide, okay, water for, as I mentioned, recreational activities, okay, such as, of course, swimming, fishing, boating, all that. Activities such as swimming, fishing, and boating. Did you finish from this one here? Okay, because I'm going to put there now, okay? All right. Usually, according to this recent statistic, we have about like these dams here, as you can see here, we have about quite number of them, as a matter of fact, around the world here. Okay, uh, so just basically, we have about close to 45,000 large dams. Okay, and to mention this point here. Okay, now the words to mention this point here. The words 45,000 large dams, okay, basically they are capture, okay, they capture and store something around 14%, okay, they store about 14% of the earth's surface runoff. You call it earth surface runoff, okay. And basically, these dams, as a matter of fact, also they provide quite of a water for a high ratio of what you call for cropland. And to mention this point here, now they provide water, these dams. Okay, they provide water, as a matter of fact, okay, for almost half, okay, of all, okay, irrigated cropland. Okay. Now also to mention, okay, that also that large dam or dams, okay, also supply, okay, more than half of the electricity, okay, used in 65 countries. Okay. And also seems these dam also basically what happened here. That of course we are talking about their advantage, but of course we talk later on also about their what are the drawback they do. Now also basically they supply water to almost to a good percentage of people. And to mention this point here, okay, as I mentioned, in 65 countries, and to mention, and also to mention about this that also have increased. They also have increased, as a matter of fact, the annual reliable surface runoff. Okay, surface runoff. Okay, available. This is available here. Okay, available. Okay, basically to almost to people by 33%. Okay. Now we're going to talk about what are also the other thing is the drawback of from the dam. Okay, because also the dam they can do other, and also basically the dam after a while of course need quite a bit of service, because as you know there is a huge number of silt and the clay going to precipitate, and almost after 50 years if not being done and cleaned out is the dam is going to be almost useless. So basically to mention about some of these factors. Now so subtitle we are continuing now. Dam and reservoir system. Systems, okay, also have, okay, a drawback. Or drawbacks, okay. Now for example going to make a few example here. For example, okay, of course you cannot count everything here, but just mention a few points. And one thing, of course, here that the reservoirs created dams. Okay, dams have basically have displaced about 40 to 80 million people 40 to 80 million people from their homes. Okay, from their homes, and flooded. Okay, large area, and flooded large areas. Okay, of mostly productive land, and large areas of mostly productive land. Okay, so this is one of the drawback to mention this point. Okay, now also sometimes also the dam, as a matter of fact, is going to impact some of ecosystems. In that case, going to mention this point here. Now, dams have also impaired. Mention this point here. Dams, okay, have also impaired. Okay, some of important ecosystems. Some of the important called ecosystem services. Okay, that basically that the river provide ecosystem services that rivers provide. Because what happened here? Because of the dam excessive water withdrawal, because of the dams excessive water withdrawals. Okay, water withdrawals. Okay, and also and prolonged drought in some area. Okay, and prolonged. Okay, drought or drought. Okay, in some areas. Okay. Yeah, to mention basically what happened here, that some area. So basically only, okay, 21 of the planets, okay, a planet in which basically 177. There are only 21 of the river of, okay, of 177 longest rivers constantly basically they are able to reach the sea. The sea before running dry. sorry, before running dry. Okay. And what happened here because of this, and really that would give us an idea why, for example, they notice there is a high extinction rate basically in the fresh, what you call on the fish which lives in the fresh water comparing to those living in saline or ocean water. To mention this point here, okay, and this explain. Okay, and this explain as a matter of fact why estimated extinction we call estimated extinction rates, okay, for freshwater okay, okay, the extinction the estimated extinction rate for freshwater, what you call fishes, okay, are 4 to 6 times, okay, higher than for marine or terrestrial species. Okay, basically for marine or species. Okay. Now, the other point to mention, did you follow this point here? That also the other point to mention, basically the dam itself also they have a limited okay lifespans. Okay. Now to mention reservoirs, okay, also have limited okay, lifespans. Okay. Now usually to mention basically within 50 years. Okay. Within 50 years, reservoirs are or typically filled up. Typically fill up, okay, of course, with sediment. As I mentioned to you, these sediment, of course, like mud and silt. Okay, just give me a second here. All right. And that's basically why they fill with the sediment. And you know what we're going to mention, which make them useless. In that case, we make them useless for storing water or producing electricity. For storing water or producing, okay, electricity. Okay. Now, basically, this shows also what happened here. Okay. Uh, yeah, the other thing here I already mentioned to you here. Now, the other going to mention to you that basically, if the climate change is we talk about the impact or the, in other words, advantage and disadvantage of the dams. Okay, uh, because especially when you have about 45,000 or even more now, there is more countries building dams and so on. They try to what you call to make use of the fresh water. We will see now also that if the climate change occur or proceed as being predicted, what is the impact of that? So we're going to mention this point here on the water and so on. To mention like, something here, okay, that if climate change, okay, occurs as predicted, for this century, okay. Now to mention, of course, the water shortage will only intensify. Okay. You finish on this one? Okay, if you reach, then I'm going to put it down here. Okay. All right. Now, for example, what's going to happen here? For example, that billions of people, okay, in South America and Asia, okay, depends, okay, that basically they depend on the river which is come from the glaciers area, okay. So about, for example, billions of people in South America and Asia depends on rivers flow, okay, by mountains, glaciers, by by mountains, glaciers, okay. Now, the and basically this glacier will serve as a what you call as a source of fresh water, okay. But if they tend to what you call the climate change to melt and so on, that of course is going to replenish that one. So these glaciers, to mention basically that these glaciers, okay, serve as a fresh water, as a fresh water uh, saving account. This is a saving accounts, okay, because they tend to store, they tend to store, okay, sorry, precipitation, okay, precipitation as ice and snow, okay, in wet periods, okay, in wet periods, and of course, and they melt slowly, okay, in the dry periods, okay. Now, basically, according, I don't have picture here. Somebody already they all said, okay. In reality, by 2015, which is already almost like 5 to 6 years ago, okay, a lot of these mountain they show are shrinking continuously for the previous consecutive for 24 years, for 24, 20 this one. As of, for example, as of 2015. Many of these mountains, okay, glaciers, okay, had been shrinking, okay, for 24 consecutive years. 24 consecutive years. Okay. Now, simply to mention a small calculation they done or statistic that if this glacier eventually disappear, if the glaciers disappear or eventually disappear, okay, nearly, okay, disappear here, nearly about 3 billion people, okay, 3 billion people will likely, okay, to be short of fresh water, okay, for short water, for all the purpose, okay, for fresh water for all purposes, okay, including food production, okay. Basically, I'm going to stop my lecture here at the moment. I just want to talk to you a few minutes before the end of the, okay? All right. Basically, I would like basically your term test to include to this points, okay? All right, on Thursday. And as I mentioned to you, maybe as I did before with the others, I usually, of course, going to use the same link, which we use it for your exam is going to be on Friday, okay, coming Friday. Basically, of course, I want everybody to be on the link, and then I will send you what you call the exam by through the D2L email system. And then when you finish your exam, you will send it what you call to a Dropbox within the period open for you. Okay. Do you have any question, please?
So do we have to come on to this Zoom link before we start the exam?
Oh yes, the same Zoom. Yeah, the same this Zoom link. Yeah,
Okay, so do
yeah.
we have to
Because
stay on
well,
the Zoom link?
first of all, everybody should be there because first of all, when I send the exam, I want to make sure that everybody will tell me that received it. You got this point here?
Yeah.
And also the other point I will give you about what you call, not really anytime, but at least to make sure that everybody, if they have a question or anything want to answer, they can answer them. Okay. Now, do you have a problem by keeping the Zoom on and writing the exam?
No, no, that should be okay.
Okay, yeah. So basically that's what it is. Because I will stay all the time there if any question or anything like that. Okay. That's the reason.
Okay.
Yeah, and they make it for Friday basically because I can give you more time if possible to see how, not too much, but okay. And also, I think the same thing for if there is any special needs student, of course, the Dropbox will have longer time. Okay. Do you have another question, please?
After we do like our little 5 minute like intro thing, is it okay if we shut the Zoom link off and only like go back on if we need it?
That's what my reason why. That's what normally they do, yes, but I can ask you why.
I just find it like really distracting when it's on and
Distracting you? Okay, okay. All right, okay. Anyway, that's, I don't think you're going to cause me a trouble, this one here, okay? Um, but that should be okay. But because what happened here, that if you need a question or anything like that, we'll work it out, okay?
okay, thanks.
Yeah. Now, one thing I want to mention to you, that of course, this is a Friday because of the exam, we don't have what you call a meeting for tutorial. But really, last Friday, I saw quite few people were absent. Can tell me, they can tell me why? Some of them, they are here now. Okay. So nobody want to answer me anything. Okay. Yeah. Okay, then I guess by this one, do you have any more question, please?
How many questions is the
Well,
exam?
of course, I didn't really myself. Usually, of course, I have to bring you. Maybe I don't know, but of course, I have to make a calculation of the question with regard to the time allowed. You got this point here, okay? Of course, you don't, as you know, in these classes, I don't give multiple choice. It's going to be like written response or essay or define, and usually, of course, I give you choices within that. Okay. So if I ask you, for example, explain one or two, then I give you three or four, and then you answer these. Got this point here?
Yep, thanks.
Okay. All right then. Any more question, please? Okay. At the moment, I'm going to end the session, and hopefully, I wish you all good luck. Okay. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.